Welcome back to Life Rewired. I'm Rob,
And I'm Ashley.
and today we have a really great program because we have a special guest whose his name is Blake, and he is joining us from. I don't know if you want us to give your location, so if you
Oh,
want,
it's fine. Just Seattle, Washington area.
there
Yeah.
you go. And
Yep.
today Blake's going to talk with us about something called CTE. I didn't know what CTE was until I had met Blake, and I don't know as much as I should know about it. I know the gist of it, but let's just dive right into it, and we're going to let Blake tell his story, and then afterwards, Ashley and I will ask some questions. So, Blake,
Okay.
go ahead. You have the floor.
So CTE stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's a degenerative brain disease that um, you can't actually diagnose in the living. And so they're actually trying to develop ways to diagnose people like us in the living. And so they've actually started or developed a new term, which is TES, traumatic encephalopathy syndrome, which is basically, just you had so much head trauma over your life, you had enough concussions or just enough jarring around, and it doesn't need to necessarily be concussions, is what they're finding out. They're really starting to realize that. Um, I even got a buddy of mine who was in the military, and he was a gunner. I mean, he had head trauma other than that, but just that jarring around of a big gun or that shaking around or domestic violence, can start and trigger this disease. And it's a tau protein that ends up just basically eating your brain away. And so you just slowly, you kind of age quick, you start getting the signs of dementia, Parkinson's, a lot of um, neurofatigue, fatigue in general, anger management issues. And so a lot of it is a lot of the things that people with TBI are dealing with. So yeah, I played football since I was 8 years old. I was just a rough kid, you know.
Yeah.
So I played through college, and that's kind of what I held pride in most of my life until then, was how hard I could hit people, how many people I could take out of a game. And it's just, years later,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what happened, and you realize, like, oh, you were, maybe should have held off a little bit.
Right.
So now I'm kind of just big into just kind of trying to just advocate and let people know, because as you know, a lot of people, they don't realize the symptoms that they're having, and these things can get real bad. They could be progressive, and they don't. If you're not looking out for it, that's when I think there's probably been millions of divorces because of it. I think there's been millions, of more, um, suicides than we
Yes.
know than we know about, that we can attribute to this person just didn't know and understand what was happening to them with their trauma, with their brain injury, and yeah.
Is the education out there now that helps prevent all the trauma to the head?
So they are starting to. There's a couple different things that they've been doing. So one of the things I've seen is called Flagtail 14, right? So it's this campaign that the Concussion Foundation has put out to try to convince parents and boys, don't play football, play flag football until you're 14. So they're trying to get boys to develop their brain more before they just start ramming it into things all the time. And they're thinking that that's going to help slow the CTE rate of everybody.
Yeah.
Um, there is some new education that they're constantly studying it. It's so closely related to Alzheimer's that they're studying it. They're finding ways that they can look at Alzheimer's, try to prevent it, try to study it. And so because it's so close, I'm very optimistic that they're going to find something very similar for these kids with CTE. So maybe we can test them once a year, like before they play. Like, oh no, like you had some bad head trauma this last season, and now we see a small you're gonna see some bad tau proteins. You know, let me give you a bigger education about how you're gonna end up and how quickly, how much more quickly you will age. You know, it's not fun. I mean, I make fun of myself now and I joke about it now, but it hasn't been fun.
Right.
You know, it's been insanely difficult on me and mostly my family because I mean I forget stuff. Well, they remember stuff. You know, so
Yeah. That is the hard thing is the memory issue, and anybody with any type of a brain issue, whether it be traumatic brain injury, CTE, and um, there's another one I can't think of. It happens when you have like a lack of oxygen to the brain for a period of time, anoxemia or something like that. Have you heard of this, Ashley?
Um, yeah, I can't think of what it is.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you know what I'm
but that would
talking about, though.
but that's still I mean that still would I mean that's what's going to create the TBI or the ABI, the acquired brain. You acquired it from this lack of oxygen or chemical or whatnot. You know, so it's the
Right.
I've realized more and more over the last year or two that I've been trying to get involved that a lot all of us are so different, but there are so many similarities to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have they made any advances over the years with the ways to prevent the trauma?
So a couple of cool new things that they've been doing is they've been attaching like a oh man, I'll probably get a lot of terminology wrong, so sorry about this, but like a G-force gauge on your helmet.
Oh, really?
Like, so yeah, so then it's Bluetooth or whatever. And so, like, a coach will have an iPad and they can see, like, oh, Blake just took a hit and it had X amount of G's. Like, that seems pretty hard. Like, maybe we should pull him out. Maybe we should think about this. And the other thing that I've seen that they've done is they're making like new pads to go over the helmet, which is great, and that is going to prevent a lot of concussions. It is, but at the same time, it doesn't matter like what protection you put over your head. If I'm running full speed and run into a wall with a bunch of protection on my head, I'm still acquiring brain damage.
Yeah. Yeah, just like if you're in
So
a car crash, you don't have to hit your head. Just the whiplash
yeah,
itself can
hitting the
cause
airbag.
a
Yeah,
trauma.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna ask what you thought about, or I don't know if you were even following years back the whole Heron Hernandez trial and the
Oh, the Aaron
introduction of
Hernandez. Yeah.
CTE possibly playing a part in his decision to take somebody else's life.
So my thoughts on that. I'm getting goosebumps. Sorry. They know. Okay. The NFL already knows. Okay.
Hmm.
We've known for decades and decades what these guys are doing. Boxers, MMA, even girls soccer, football, everything. What we're doing to ourselves. They know we always oh we don't know about the brain and we have to still study. They were studying in the 1920s. Okay. We're talking
Wow.
100 years ago. They
Wow.
knew about this, right? And so for me, it was just like, yeah, they had to demonize him. They had to write him off. I'm not saying he's a good guy at all,
Right.
but yeah, he has CTE. Yeah, you have you're more like your anger management's off. You're more violent. You're
Hmm.
yada yada yada. And so for some of these guys who might have not had a great upbringing
Hmm.
or good parents, and then they get to see like I'm lucky. I had good parents. If I didn't, I know I'd probably be in jail. I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
That
So
has to be difficult too, because like say for example, if you already come out of the gate with anger management problems anyway, and then you develop CTE down the road, I mean to me that's just a recipe for disaster.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. That's why that's like I said after I've researched it this last couple of years. It's like I feel bad for so many of these guys. You hear about all this domestic violence and all this craziness. You're like, oh, these guys are horrible people, and then you're like, wait, What if they got really bad brain damage? They just need some help. You feel, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of them don't get diagnosed with until after they're
Late.
dead. Yeah.
because the
Or
goal is to just get them back in the game. Put a
yeah.
band-aid on the problem, let them play the sport again.
But it's the mentality too with the player too. It's not only coaches. Like it's the same thing with me. I mean, I look back. I thought I was indestructible, and so yeah, I'd take a nasty hit or I'd give a nasty hit, and then I would do everything I could to convince our trainers, our athletic
Mm-hmm.
trainers, that I was good. Oh no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
fine. I don't, just to get back in the game, even if I was hurting, even if I know I could barely think, like I was just getting back in the game. So yeah. There needs to be also an advocacy for those players who were kind of like me, or like, no, you're not going back, and like, come on. So I really hope that they make this a requirement to have those like sensors to see the types of hits to get some of these guys who are taking too many of these big hits just out of the game for the day. Sorry, you know.
Yeah. I know it all boils down to the mighty dollar, but there has to be a better way. There should be more regulations, more rules. Player gets hit, you know, you're not going back in.
Yeah.
And like you said, a coach, I'm fine. How many times, does like someone in the big NFL, go right back into the game and
Oh, because there's so much more on the line even. So they're like, I'm making millions of dollars. I'm just gonna put my body on the line for this. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, it's a sad truth, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to that dollar.
Yeah,
Is there
it's
anything else we should know, or anything else that people should know?
like just like you guys are saying, like my one of my biggest things right now is just kind of getting the word out there and just telling people that are getting, in their mid 30s, mid 40s, and just saying, hey, did you play football? Like, just think about it. Did you play? Like, think about how your life has been the last 10 years. You need to have someone be monitoring your progress. Like, luckily, like I said, my wife didn't know I had CTE. I didn't know even when we got married, and it was years and years later. But it's good that I have her around because she can, you know, 10 years ago that you were like this at all. I can watch and monitor this downhill spiral that you've been on. And so if I start spiraling faster or start acting up, she's like, hey, she can be able to monitor. So everyone with CTE or starting to develop this or had played football before, you really need to just keep an eye on yourself, take care of yourself. It's hard. Yeah.
Are there any resources out there for people to either learn more who may know somebody that has CTE, or if a person themselves suspects they have CTE? Like, where do you go?
So there are many resources online. You could definitely Google about CTE. Now there is an educational CTE as well, so you need to make sure you type in like concussion with it. There's also the Concussion Legacy Foundation.
Okay.
There's also I would also recommend like Boston University. Like I've donated my brain already. When I die, my brain's going to Boston
Oh, wow.
just so they can study it. And if I can help and them figure it out, I don't care. Like have my brain, whatever. So those are the kind of the two biggest resources. But as you guys know, there's no real solution. A lot of it is
Right.
um, um, supporting each other,
Yeah.
right? Like just like this, you know what I mean? These types of conversations and letting people know, getting the word out there. And so I have my own page I started on Facebook called Me and CTE, and so I post some videos, just try to educate people because it really, like I said, it's education and just support. I'm trying to get guys to reach out because guys are stubborn.
We
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Yes.
And support
Uh,
groups are fabulous because it's a way for people who have the same thing in common to come together and talk. It doesn't have to always be about I have a headache today or I have this or Blake and I are in in a support group that we join, every Tuesday evening. It, we just talk, whatever the topic is, tonight we're just
Yeah,
hungry.
it's random. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And rarely do we stay on topic. I don't know if we've ever actually finished a topic,
Right.
but it's a community that we all understand each other, and it's okay if we don't stay on topic. Um, it's something that you can't get with a spouse or a friend because they know what you're going through, but they don't know what you're going through, if that makes any sense at all.
Oh yeah.
So it's
It it
just, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it took a while for my wife to let it set in. You know,
Yeah.
because she saw my decline. It's like, what is going on with you? You're just giving up. Like, what is wrong with you? And it was just like, I don't know. I just don't know. And then we thought of that. So just, yeah, a lot of sympathy goes out to our caretakers or spouses or people that are around us. You know.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah.
take the brunt of it. They see the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's easier for us, I feel like, to put on a face for a stranger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you know
Yeah, your
but when
family might
you're
read. They're gonna read that little sign or little tell you have. They're like, "You're not feeling good today, are you?" And you're like, "Ah."
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why are you crying for the third time today?
I don't know.
Leave me alone.
It's just a commercial about the new tea that's came out. I know,
Right.
but it's so sad. Now, Blake,
Oh goodness.
with CTE, I correct me if I'm wrong because I know I often am. Um, Now, it differs a little bit from a traumatic brain injury in the fact that sometimes with our traumatic brain injuries, this is just as good as it gets. It's not going any better. It's not going any worse. But with CTE, isn't it? Doesn't it progressively get worse over time, or does it stay the same?
No, it progressively gets worse. Um, and that's kind of again why I'm trying to educate because I believe, I'm not a doctor, I don't know any of these things, but I just think that if you don't know, you're not taking the right supplements, the right meds, the right diet, doing cognitive exercises, getting out and exercising enough, and doing all these things to like maintain, at least maintain, try to maintain where you're
Right.
at, so your decline isn't so fast. And so that's kind of what you got to do until they figure out some type of cure or anything like that. Is just slowing down the progression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blake, thank you so much for talking with us today. And I know, don't forget to go over to his page on Facebook. It's
Me
me
and
and CTE.
CTE, correct?
Me and
Yep.
CTE, and then also friends with brain injury. That's
Yes.
more of a general TBI, brain injury group. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's been a pleasure. And if there's any, this is normally the part of the program where we have our closing thoughts. So I'll start with you this evening. If there's anything you'd like to add before we sign off.
I guess if I have anything to say in closing is that I just appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Just this education and support for people is it's really I think the biggest thing. We need this and just getting it to as many people as you can and or getting as many people talking as you can.
Right.
You know. So yeah, I just appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Blake.
Yeah.
Ashley,
Hopefully, see you guys next week.
I'm Rob,
I'm Ashley.
and this is Life Rewired.